I'm back. Here's another episode of Dion on Purpose. I want to thank everybody who watched and subscribed. My last episode, it's going to get better from here, folks. Slowly but surely, we're going to make this thing something special. So keep rocking with me. Once again, it's Dion Joseph on Purpose, which means I want to be the best version of myself on purpose for the betterment of all humankind, my country, my state, my city, everybody. Because I want to be water. What is water? Right now, the world seems to be on fire. And everybody's afraid to come because it's too hot. Everybody's afraid to come together because it's too hot. So I want to be the water that cools things down so we can all make our way from the extreme right, the extreme left, and come to the center to talk about important issues surrounding faith, race, politics, world affairs, whatever's going on in today's society. I want to be able to talk about it from a rational place. And remember, I'm not here to punch down on any particular group. Everything I say is going to come from a foundation of love, even if I sound passionate. So once again, I just want to thank everybody for listening to last week's episode. Here we go with episode number 2 of Dion on Purpose. I want to talk to you guys about the cult of race and how it destroys our society. Now, primarily, I'm going to be talking to the African-American community because it says, as the saying goes, when America catches a cold, Black people catch the flu. And unfortunately, the cult of race has infected the Black community so poorly that it has limited us greatly. So I want to talk to my community, the African-American community, like everybody is my community, but there is a group of individuals who I have a special kinship with, things that are in common with, successes, a struggle, and I want to talk to them right now. But this can be for everybody. This message can be universal, so hear me out. All right? So I want to talk about the cult of race. Primarily to my believers, because I'm going to come from a faith-based perspective. I love the times we're living in right now because we're shifting to where we can talk more about our faith freely and infuse that into our discussions. And hopefully, if you're a good person, you do it in a way that's not offensive to anybody, but I'm going to go forward with it. So listen, to my believers out there, my fellow born-again Christians, there's a verse in the Bible, Exodus 23-5, which says, "Thou shalt worship no other God but me." And what I'm noticing today is African Americans have found a new God. And that new God is their skin color or their identity or their race. We have now entered into the cult of race, and it is destroying us. In the Christian faith, we do everything we can to be guided by the will of God. Okay? If you're a Christian, every day you realize you're human, you're not perfect, you're flawed. Yes, you have fleshly desires and everything else. But as a child of God, your goal is to shape your life as best as you possibly can, as best as humanly possible, to mirror the will of God. Forgive me, I'm getting over a little bit of a cold. So that's what we do. We try to shape our life around His will. If we truly worship God and nothing else, if we don't idolize anything else, all right? Over the years, things have changed, and our race has become our idol. Through a steady diet of indoctrination, stereotyping, identity politics, activism, that has basically weaponized our race to keep us under control. All right? To me, critical race theory and all these things is nothing more than a new Jim Crow, and it's designed to categorize us, to control us all. But it's especially impacting the African American and how we're able to move throughout society, all right? So when our race dictates what we can do or what we can't do, it has literally become your God. It's become your new religion. It's become your cult, and it's dangerous. How does that happen? When your race dictates who you can love and show compassion to, I'm not talking about romantically, but when it dictates who you can show compassion to. Charlie Kirk shooting was a perfect example of that. I saw born-again Christians when Charlie Kirk was shot. People I know, people I sat in a pew with, okay, at a church primarily of African-American community, who I'm on social media with. I saw these individuals justifying the death of a human being who was shot in front of his wife and children. It went along the lines of, yeah, he was shot, that was wrong, but he shouldn't have been do, right? It was his fault that he got shot. No compassion coming from this group of individuals. because their skin color dictates how much compassion, the level of compassion they get to show to other people. And it happens every day on a daily basis. I see it from a negative exception of my community that sadly is too large. And I always stress the negative exception, okay? Sometimes it dictates, this cult of race dictates who we can be romantically involved with. We got many African Americans who get upset when a brother or a sister decides to step outside of their race and find love. I don't have a problem with that at all. If God doesn't have an issue with it, neither do I. There's points in the Bible where God has no issue with interracial relationships. What he has an issue with is when who you're dating or being involved in a relationship goes against his will, their behaviors or their activities, but not their race, okay? The only time I have a small issue with interracial dating is when you as a black person completely eliminate your race as an option from the dating pool because of some self-hatred for your race. That's when it becomes an issue for me. But outside of that, man, if she has a heartbeat, she floats your boat, she makes you smile, she gets you, she lifts you up, she prays for you, or whatever it is she does to spiritually lift you up and love you unconditionally. It doesn't matter what color the person is you love. It doesn't matter. But for some reason, for some African Americans, this should dictate who we should be with. Ooh, there's a lot of sisters out there mad when they see a brother step out with a white woman or a woman of another color. You know, and I'm sorry, that's not of God. That's not of God. I understand you feel slighted, but you're being judgmental because you don't know why his heart was guided there. Just because his heart was guided somewhere else doesn't mean that he hates you, sis, or you, bruh. It doesn't mean that. Don't let this dictate who you love. If someone loves you for who you are down to the gristle, I ain't got a problem with it, baby. If God's cool with it, I'm cool with it. Sometimes our race dictates who and how we worship. Still, in 2025, the church is the most segregated place in America. It's crazy. Even in progressive states like California, there's still black churches. You hear places like pastors like Jamal Bryant going in on black Christians, you know, talking about the black church and the white church. And that is not of God. What we've done with faith in that respect is despicable. And we should be ashamed of ourselves. We should be ashamed of ourselves. But some people have a problem if a brother decides to go to a church that's multi-denominational. Oh, you shouldn't be there. You need to be in a black church. Or to white folks, you need to be in a white church. There's no such thing in the kingdom of God. And the day we can get rid of that, the day we can finally let that die and just come together on the same, we read from the same gospel, same book, sing the same praises to the same God. Yet still, the most segregated place in America is the church. And that is wrong. Everybody is allowing their skin to dictate where they worship. My challenge to you is to do a little church hopping. Go to a place and push your limits. Step out of your comfort zone and go to a church with people who don't look like you and enjoy yourself. Pray for them. Read scripture with them. And maybe we could tamp down on some of this hatred. Maybe we can do that. When it dictates what we worship, I still get brothers to this day, these woke, super black brothers, right? How can you worship the white man's God? How can you as a black man worship the white man's religion? That is a lie out of the pit of hell. Christianity is not the white man's religion. You do know Christianity was around a couple thousand years before slavery. You do know that. Before American chattel slavery, it was around. Before Constantine got it and turned it into a man-made thing, where we were idolizing men and figures. Before all those people got to it, the way, before it was called Christianity, it was called the way. What happened was certain groups of individuals got a hold of it, took certain aspects of the Bible and used it to manipulate, enslave, and hurt people. The gospel didn't do that. Man did that. The slave masters, they took portions of the Bible and created the slave Bible. And they read it to the slaves to make sure that not only did they break them physically and mentally, they broke them spiritually to keep them subservient. By the way, those people weren't Christians. I don't care what you say. There's some individuals who, when Judgment Day comes, are going to stand before the Lord and say, I read your word to the slaves. And God's not going to know who they are because they weren't. They may have called themselves Christians, but they're not. So you can't fool me with the white man if the Bible is the white man's gospel. It's not. I fell in love with Jesus, not in a cotton field in Alabama somewhere. I fell in love with Jesus Christ at 7 years old. And that love was strengthened through the walk of my parents, not my skin color, through watching my parents use their faith to help people, to raise 41 foster children, to pray for people, to help save marriages. That's why you can't tell me. I watched my mom heal people in Jesus' name. That's why I love Jesus. Not because a white slaver made me do it. So if you're black and you have somebody attacking you, what you're being attacked by is somebody whose God is this. Don't even let them sweat you. They're misguided and they're wrong and they're lying. They are lying to you about your gospel. When race dictates how we vote, right now, a lot of brothers and sisters today who have woken up and have kind of walked away from the manipulation and abuse of the Democratic Party, you guys are getting it really bad right now, and I included. As you guys know, I recently separated from the Democratic Party. And as a result, I get called all the names, Coon, Tom, all these words, all this slander to whip me back into the fold, but it's not going to work. It's not going to work. Their skin color, their God tells them that they have to vote for a party that has manipulated, exploited, and abused them for 60 years. And prior to that was part of enslaving them, terrorizing them, burning crosses. Margaret Sanger running around the country, trying to tell black pastors to convince black women to destroy their babies while within the womb. We're down 20 million voices as a result of that demonic movement, that demonic racist movement. Yet you still have brothers and sisters trying to shame you because you woke up and decide, enough's enough. I don't want to be a part of a party that it abandons me for 4 years and then come election years uses fear, race baiting to keep me scared to look at any other options other than them. No. This no longer dictates how I vote. This no longer dictates how I vote. I won't allow it. Now, it doesn't mean that I'll never vote for an individual Democrat. It just means I'm not a slave to that party anymore. I'm free from that. I'm free to vote for anybody, whether they're a Republican, a Democrat, or independent, as long as their values match mine and their policies are on point. This will no longer dictate how I vote or what I vote for. This cult of race won't allow me to do that and engage in more of the same destructive policies that has hurt my communities, that's kept our schools, preschools to prison pipelines, and make promises every year to us, and then turns around and abandons us. Leaves our communities in rubble. But our intentions were good. No, they weren't. No, they weren't. We're so brainwashed by the cult that we can't even walk away from something that's been destroying us for 60 years. I'm sorry. I can't do it anymore. Can't do it. When our skin color tells us to go after and attack black people who choose to vote outside of what's prescribed for them. And right now, you guys, like I said, we're getting it. Those of you who have stepped outside the box, those of you who have stepped outside the silo, the echo chamber, you're getting it. I've even had members of my own family outside on the side of their neck. They won't say my name, but they'll accuse me of tap dancing for a white audience. They'll accuse me of tap dancing and trying to please certain audiences. I don't give a damn what white people or black people think about me. I don't give a damn. I don't care. And it's so hurtful that they think that, because we're calling out black politicians like Jasmine Crockett, not because she's a black woman, But because she is acting ignorant to pander and emotionally hijack and scare black people, we're calling her out. We're calling her out on being an intelligent human being. We know she's very smart and intelligent, but code switching to prey on her fellow African American brothers and sisters and keep them angry, keep them amped up, and lying to them daily to keep them loyal to the party. No, I'm not tap dancing. I don't care what anybody thinks about me. I'm not under the cult of race, and I'm not under the cult of trying to please anybody. I'm not. Well, then, why do so many white folks like your pages? Why do so many white people like your posts? I'm going to tell you why. Because they're not in the cult of race. It's that simple. They're not forced, like many of us in the African American community are, to look at everything through the lens of race. That's why. But it's not just them. I can't tell you how many brothers and sisters slide into my DM. They won't comment on my post, okay? They won't say it or they won't like it because they don't want to be attacked by the cult members, right? They don't want to be attacked by the cult members, the cult of race. But in my DMs and in person, they come up to me and says, Dion, brother, you keep on talking. You're right. I can't say it because I don't want to not be invited to the cookout. But you keep on talking. That's the truth. I'm not pandering to anyone. I've chosen not to look at every single issue through the lens of race. I've broken myself from that. And it doesn't mean that I don't see racism. It's just I handle racism on a case-by-case basis. I don't use this cult of racism or cult of race to paint everybody with such a broad and dangerous brush. I won't do that. I won't do that. But yes, whites and blacks love what I have to say. It's just one group isn't afraid to say it and the other one doesn't want to get canceled. You're wrong about that. When it tells us what job we should get. You know, so many African Americans out there looking for work. You got good credit, you don't have a criminal record, and law enforcement agencies are hiring right now. They're bleeding, they need cops. But you have the cult of race telling you you're a black man. You can't be a police officer because they were once slave catchers or because there's a history of racism and systemic oppression. So they use this to keep you from one of the most incredible jobs you could ever have. I've been doing it for 30 years. If you don't believe me that you can make this job, that this job is what you make it, Google Officer Dion Joseph and you'll see the career I had. It's been an incredible, wonderful career. It is what you make it. And we need you. There are police forces, fire departments, and everything out there that needs you. But the cult of race says you can't do that. You'll be a part of the system that hurts black people when that is a lie. That is an absolute falsehood. And I explained that in my last video. But if you want more explanation than that, go back to that. I don't have time here. But some of you brothers and sisters who you get it all the time when you become a doctor or a lawyer. All of a sudden, the people you grew up with in your neighborhood, all of a sudden, oh, you're trying to be white. Or when you try to speak proper English, oh, you're trying to sound like the white man now. Huh? You're trying to be white? How many of you have heard that? When you've broken away from the cult of race and elevated yourself through education. How many of you have heard that? I can see a lot of you. I can't see you, but I feel hundreds of thousands of brothers and sisters right now raising their hands who are successful, who've had to hear that they're Uncle Toms and Sambos because you have a job with benefits and a pension. Because you're being made to feel guilty for your success by those still stuck in the cult of race that says you're supposed to be in the hood. You're supposed to be a gang member. You're supposed to be a part of the negative exception of the black community. And if you see your way out of it, that green-eyed monster takes over them and they say, oh, you ain't black no more. You ain't black no more. The cult of race keeps them limited. When it affects every aspect of your life, when it becomes your God, this is what it does. It limits you. It limits where you can go, what you can do, what you can worship, who you can love. The cult of race is a limiting tool. It is a weaponized tool of critical race theory that keeps you in a victim mode. It keeps you in a helpless mode. It keeps you with your hand out instead of your hand up, ready to work, ready to do something for yourself. It keeps you with your fist up, right, in anger, and your hand out, begging for resources, instead of putting both of these hands to work to better your lot, to better your life. That's what the cult of race does. That's what it does. It limits you. And I'm about to add more faith to this perspective. I serve a limitless God that tells me I can be and do whatever I please. And I thank God he blessed me with two parents. My parents were proud to be black. I'm proud to be black. I'm proud of my heritage. I'm proud of what I am. But my parents never let their race dictate who they could be. My parents grew up in the Jim Crow South, and I'll never forget. I was the first young man in my household. I have three brothers, a sister, and two brothers. My brothers and sister were straight A students, AB students. I was the first one in my family to bring home 3 Fs in high school. I was the first one. How did that happen? I joined an activist group in high school, a black activist group. And every week I kept hearing that everything, the white man this, the white man, we don't want to learn the white man's religion. We don't want to learn the white man's education. We don't want to learn how is 2 + 2 belong to the white man. Didn't we create math? Make it make sense. But I let these individuals on a weekly basis brainwash me into thinking that America wasn't going to let me be anything anyway. So when I came home with my 3 Fs and my mom says, go to your room and wait for your father to get home, boy, when you hear those words as a young man, especially in the 80s and 90s, you know, if you had a real father, those were the most terrifying words you ever wanted to hear. And I heard my dad pull up in his Cadillac and those big keys come through the door, and I heard my mom talking to him, and I was like, oh, I'm about to die. My dad opens the door and he has a talk with me. He says, what is going on? You got 3 Fs? What is this bringing 3 Fs into my home? What is this? I said, Dad, the white man ain't gonna let me be shit anyway. The cult got to me. And my dad got angry and he had to calm himself down, and he left the room, closed the door, and came back about 30 minutes later. And his eyes were red like he had been crying. And I said, Dad, are you crying? And my dad looks at me and he says, listen to me, young man. Before you join this activist group that you've been going on and on about for the last few weeks, you used to believe you could be a scientist. You used to believe that you could be a great writer. You loved science and English, right? I said, yes, sir. He says, you let these people talk you out of it. He said, son, you don't know what oppression is. You didn't know you were oppressed until somebody told you. And that is what's happening to a lot of young African Americans today. You've never experienced one lash on the back from a whip. You've never had a rope tied around your neck. You've never had a cross burned on your front lawn. Yet, progressives have you thinking that every day you have the weight of 400 years of oppression on you. That was happening to me. And my dad, when he said that to me, boy, you didn't know you were oppressed until somebody told you. My father freed me at 15 or 16 years old from the cult of race. It took a while, but it freed me. My father said, if I can be successful growing up in Jim Crow, seeing your great-grandfather shot in the head by a 16-year-old white kid, if I can come through that cross burning, using the black-only bathrooms, having to walk in the street while white people walked on the sidewalk, if I can come from that and be successful, son, there is nothing stopping you. My father saved my future, and that's what I'm trying to do with my African-American brothers, especially if you're young. Listen to me. Listen to me. You didn't know you were oppressed until your college professor, until some famous activist or activist group told you. Free yourself from this cult of race and open yourself to love others, to feel compassion, to listen to other people, to worship with other people, to love who you want to love, to do any damn job you want without apologies and do it your way. That's why I'm doing this. That's why I'm saying this. And if you're offended, I'm sorry. Sorry, not sorry. But everything I'm saying to you is out of love. My Father loved me enough to take the time to tell me that, and I'm loving you enough to stop listening to the Jamal Bryants, the Roland Martins, the Jasmine Crockett's. I'm telling you, stop listening to these people. Stop listening to BLM and all these people who want to, because all these people work for white progressives, in my opinion. They're hired by white progressives to keep you right where you are. Right where you are, to limit you. They want to be your gods. They want your skin to be your God. I'm trying to free you. Now I get it, everybody's not for Jesus. If you don't want to go there, that's fine. But Jesus is for you. I'm trying to free you to open your mind to God, a limitless God who says you can do anything if you got me in your corner. Anyway, thank you for listening. Thank you for my rant, for hearing my rant today. It's from a place of love. This is Dion on Purpose, signing off. Remember, my badge and gun and handcuffs will never be the means I use to utilize to invoke positive change in the lives of people. My heart, my faith, and love for all mankind will always be my unyielding dogs of war. God bless y'all. Thanks for listening.